Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. This is the show where we get under the hat of some of the most important topics in franchising. And it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's March the 4th at about 5:15 UK time, 12:15 EST, for about 50 minutes. And if you are here with us live, then please get involved. Pop up a question, say hello, because it's yourselves and our wonderful community that drive this show. You're the producers and the directors of this show. And our conversation takes its path from you. So, what do we do each week? Every week we have a new topic and a lovely guest. And this week is no exception to that. We have a fantastic guest with us today. So today our topic is happy, successful franchisees, which is a great topic to have and something that I think that every franchisor and franchisee is going to strive for. So that's going to be fantastic. And our guest today is the wonderful Jason Kaber from SEO Samba, one of our good friends and supporter and sponsors of the show. Jason, welcome to the Franchise Show.
Thank you, Harvey. It's great to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here as well. So let's kick things off by a little introduction, I think. A lot of people will know yourself, Jason, but perhaps you could just start off by letting us know who you are and what SEO Samba is. I mean, I tell people most weeks, but it's good to come from the horse's mouth. Not that I'm calling you a horse, but excellent. Let us know.
Well, I've been called way worse. No, absolutely. I've been in the franchise industry for about 15 years. I started with a driving school brand as their director of marketing, then took a position with a restoration company doing their VP of franchise development, and then also their VP of marketing. And from there, I moved over to SEO Samba. Been here about 5 years, servicing the franchise industry with our software strategically designed for franchise marketing. So SEO Samba is a full service agency, if you will, but more at heart, we are a franchise software development company that specializes in marketing software, franchise sales CRMs. We have our own content management system that we build a lot of our franchise network sites on. And then we of course support all of our software and our services through managed SEO, paid search, content marketing, social media marketing, business listings. And we're in constant evolution. We just added a new product in our Marketing OS platform, our marketing platform, that allows our restaurant customers that are franchisors to update their Google My Business listings with their menu items on the fly. So you can update your entire franchise system with your menu items right from one platform. So it's pretty fantastic in the sense that if you run a restaurant, that makes your life super easy. So anyways, enough about me and SEO Samba. I'm glad to be here, share my knowledge if I can, and answer some great questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate that introduction to yourself and, of course, to SEO Samba. And it's a really important topic to talk about how we can create happy and successful franchisees. It's a simple mantra, but perhaps more complex in its nature to achieve. Before we get into today's subject, let's welcome a few people that are with us here live. We've got the ever wise Simon Wise. Always good to have Simon with us. Great contributor to the franchise industry, a great contributor to this show. My partner on franchising brand stories, and an expert recruiter here in the UK. So please reach out to Simon if you need any help on your recruitment. We have DJ Floors here. He's put, "What's going on, Harvey?" Well, lots of great things are going on. Hope things are going well with you as well. Great to have you here. We've got the lovely Neil Newman coming in from YouTube today. He's put, "Hi, Harvey. I'm watching and commenting via YouTube. Is this working?" Yes, it is. Love this topic. Yes, this is a really important topic. And I think every franchisor out there is going to be able to relate to it in wanting a happy, successful franchise network, because it's really important to make sure you're successful as a franchisor, and you're only successful as a franchisor if your franchisees are successful and happy. So it's really important. Who else have we got? We've got the lovely Leslie Flowers with us. Leslie is a fantastic friend of mine, and she's put, "Hi, Harvey and guest." It's Jason, and hi to you as well. Great to have you with us, Leslie, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on what happiness and success means to you. We have the lovely Penny Hopkinson with us. Always good to have Penny with us. Penny is one of our supporters and sponsors, and has written a fantastic book all about operations manuals. And I wonder if today the operations manual is going to be the right way round. No, it's not. It's that way. But if you want to get your ops manual the right way round, talk to Penny. I've come up with that advert all by accident. It's good, isn't it?
Excellent.
Great to have you here, Penny. And Penny's put, "Hello, Harvey. Hello, Jason. And hello, everyone." Well, great to have you with us. Let's have a look. We have somebody who is here for the first time. And it's Daran. Forgive me if I haven't pronounced that correctly. First time here, looking forward to hearing more. Well, it's fantastic to have you with us. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on what a happy, successful franchisee is and how we create that. And finally, let's go to Neil. And Neil has put, "Hello, Harvey. Keen to hear about this subject matter. Seems to tie in well to last week's conversation." Well, absolutely. We like all of these conversations. It's one big conversation, this show, with our community. And we're trying to get to the bottom of this thing we call franchising. And I think it's going to take a while. So we're going to keep going with this and have these conversations and add as much value as we can. Let's start, Jason, with trying to understand your views with your experience in the industry. What do you think makes a happy, successful franchisee? How do we get there, in your view?
That's a great question. Honestly, it all starts with the initial relationship, right? So when you're courting, both as a franchise candidate, you're courting the franchisor, and the franchisor is courting you as a candidate, you want to make sure that relationship kicks off in a strong manner. You've got a lot of intent. On the franchisor side, it's all just validation and making sure that you're bringing in the right people, because it only takes one franchisee that you bring in inadvertently and it doesn't turn out, and that makes a big mess for everybody, and for the franchisees as well. Nobody likes that if they have an issue with the franchisee. So I think it starts there, but let's skip to the next step. Like they've started their franchisee, they're operational, they're within they're about to do their store opening or brand opening, if you will. This really comes into play on the franchisor side to develop that relationship even further and show the support that the franchise needs to get off the ground, right? So you've already armed them with training, you've supplemented them with marketing, you've built out a business plan with them, and they've taken ownership of knowing that, yes, I do own a franchisee, but I am a small business owner and I am responsible. So from there, it's all about what can we do to arm the franchisee to be successful. And ultimately, that's getting in their space with a grand opening. That's helping them launch their marketing. I know my role in the past was to go to each of the grand openings for our franchisees, do spend like 3 days out in the market with them, introducing them to potential referral clients, opportunities to gain business from other business owners, and train them on how to do business development face to face. That type of ownership of the channel, if you will, for developing your marketing within your franchisee is instrumental to growing that relationship from the start. Because then there's this thing where that franchisee feels supported and backed and trained well. And then there's always the resource of saying, hey, I came across this situation I've never experienced before. How can I deal with that? And they know that they feel comfortable reaching out to the franchisor to do that. So those initial relationships are critical to be developed, because at the end of the day, the franchisor is only as good as their last franchisee, right? And you've got to take care of your franchisees to make that relationship grow, for not only the franchisor, but all the other franchisees in the network too. When you bring on a new one, there's always the opportunity for failure or miscommunication, or worse yet, disaster if somebody wants to leave the brand abruptly. So, those relationships are critical in the beginning. So that's that first phase, right? And then you've got multiple phases after that as far as marketing and support and building out relationships.
I love it. I mean, I always started these shows with nothing written down on a piece of paper, and I always finish these shows with a lot written down. And it's because we have these wonderful conversations with our community, and we're sharing this knowledge together. And I think it's really important to continue to do that. I like only as good as your last franchisee, or perhaps only as good as your next franchisee. But it's very important. It's very important to realize that you've got to constantly make sure that you don't become complacent, that you're looking after people, and therefore that rolls on to the next one. Let's have a little look, because we've got a few comments coming in. I want to make sure that I recognize everybody that's here. We've got a good question coming in from Simon, so we're going to come to that, but let's recognize a couple of people that have joined us here live. We've got the fantastic Tim Morris. Tim's put, I made it, sorry I'm late, so looking forward to this conversation. Well, it's always great to have you with us, Tim, whenever you can join us. So fantastic to have you with us. Pop in a question. I know you're a great advocate and expert in our industry, so really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on not only what makes happy, successful franchisee, but I know that Tim deals with high-performing franchisees, right? So, what's the difference between a high-performing and a struggling franchisee? And how do we get the struggling franchisees to be more successful and to be happier? There's a lot to achieve there. There's a sort of a big bridge to cross. I was using that as a euphemism because Tim has a company called The Bridge. So there you go, Tim. But yeah, it's a really, really important subject. Before we get into that, let's just say hello to one other person as well. We have Sam Hall with us. Good evening, friends from Southwest Virginia, USA. Well, good evening to you. And I have to say, I like the hat, Sam. I like the hat. Great to have you with us. Let's take a question. Let's take a question here from Simon. See what you make of this one, Jason.
So Simon's got Simon's got two questions wrapped up here. One is, how do you know if they're happy? And then how do you transmit that happiness to attract new franchisees, right? So happiness sells. I mean, you're right, Simon. I mean, that's what people are attracted to. When the team is happy, when the franchisees are happy, it's validation, right? I want to be part of a team that's fun and a franchise that supports and so forth. So, how do we know they're happy is that, in the smaller franchise communities, like 50 units or less, it's more apparent that you can have that communication, that open communication with your franchisees, and understand where they're at. As they get larger, you have to depend more on systems and processes, such as their value. I'm sorry, not their value, but their revenue numbers, if they're dropping or they're accelerating, the market conditions in their area, if they're impacted by weather or economics or whatnot, you can start to pick up that through those numbers and understand that they are how they're doing. So it's almost like an alert that says, okay, we need to pay attention to these franchisees that might be struggling a little bit, to see how they actually are doing. The other assumption, though, that can't be part of the franchisor is that because we don't hear from them, that means they're okay. That's usually another alert that said we haven't heard from this franchise or franchisee in a while. We really need to reach out to them. On the smaller aspects of things with franchising, typically franchisors are having a monthly meeting with each one of their franchisees, either on marketing or they're hosting a full network call on a certain topic or dilemma or something that they're challenging the franchise. And then often there are a number of, I guess, intranets. So some of the franchise systems use Facebook. Some of it they use an in-home grown, if you will, intranet to have kind of a social aspect to franchise ownership, so that they can talk to each other, and the franchisor can sometimes be part of that or not. But that's another way to value sentiment. If somebody's raising their hand saying, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. I can't seem to get the answer," So the evaluation of how they're happy is another way there. And then how do you convey that happiness is Simon's secondary question there. So you only get probably once or twice a year that you actually get to be with your franchisees. One is a convention, and the other one is if you go to their location. And each of those times is super valuable for the franchisor to record or document what that franchisee is like. So video, we've used a lot of video in the past to exemplify how well they're doing, the nature of who they are. So, franchisee candidates identify with other franchises that make up their same MO. So the mom and pop, or it's husband and wife, or it's the college grad, or it's the executive that takes control of the career, all of them want to identify with that. And when they see those videos and they see people that are smiling and happy, that's an easy way to convey that. The other one is have your customer convey your happiness, and that's through reviews. And if you don't think reviews are important for a franchise system, they are critical, because not only do they influence that franchisee's revenue based on the way we make decisions this day, but it also influences new future candidates, because the first thing they do is they identify their industry. They identify 5 choices of franchise in that industry, if they're available, or 2 or 3. And then they go to each of the franchisees' locations and look at their reviews. And if it's, for their spot check, if you will, they go to franchisees and they're all doing well, they can kind of make the assumption that this is a pretty strong franchise, and that the franchisees are probably pleased with the system and the process. And then when they get their validation calls, where they can call any of the franchisees through the sales process, again, they get that opportunity to validate.
So important. I mean, what you've just said there is if you're a potential franchisee looking at this as a business model, you want to be happy, you want to be successful. And one of the ways to do that is obviously to talk to that network, and to understand how that network is feeling. Are they happy? I mean, Neil, if you're here and you're listening, Neil's from Gather. And he has a platform that tries to gather in that information about how people are feeling. So it'd be really interesting to get your thoughts, Neil, on how we identify if someone's happy. Because, Jason, you were saying there about the reviews. Often reviews can come from a place of extreme, can't they? Someone will either leave a review when they're ecstatically happy, or frustrated and not so happy. It's trying to get the reviews from the people that are in that middle ground as well. But so important to have that communication. We've got a few great questions coming up as well. Let's have a look at those right now. We've got a good one here from Darren as well. Let's have a little look and read this one. It starts at the beginning. Franchisor needs to have the tools, processes, and procedures that can effectively communicated and shared with the franchisees, and the support structure that is in the field to help franchisees as a partner to hold them to the standards and to protect the brand. I think this is a really interesting point, and it goes back to what you were saying, Jason, at the beginning, that it's a sort of a courtship, and during that courtship period, you're really trying to find out about one another. You're trying to find that person's why, because success, there are two parts of this: happy and successful. Perhaps successful can be pushed a little bit more towards something that's a bit easier to quantify, the numbers. But happy, it's a little harder, right? And I think as long as you understand at the beginning from your potential franchisee, what are they trying to achieve? What's their why? Are they fed up with corporate life? Are they looking for a better work-life balance? What is it that they love about this industry that they want to be in? And what do they want to achieve? I think you're going to have a better chance of trying to create somebody who's resilient, at least, and experiences satisfaction and happiness. But I don't think we can be happy all of the time in our franchise business, that's for sure. Just as with life.
Well, it's a business, right? So there are always challenges. The instrument of franchising is to have that shortcut, right? I want to get into business for myself, but I don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I do like this industry, and I do like doing this because I've done it before, or it's a challenge for me, or it's rewarding for me, or it changes my economic stance in where I am today to a different stance, or it's a vehicle for my whole family to benefit from as I transition out of the workforce and they take over, like succession planning. So there's a reason. Everybody has a little bit different reason for why they come into franchising. So let's go. And Darren, yeah, like I mentioned before, it does start in the beginning. I agree with you totally. The process, absolutely. And the procedures. We used to have a sign, I'm sure it's still there, that says, follow the system, right? We've built it. It's proven over and over and over. And, that's probably one of the more red flags is when you get a maverick in your pipeline who challenges everything you say. They're not going to be a good fit. They're brilliant people. They're on the edge. They'll do fine as an entrepreneur, but they don't belong in a franchise system because they're always going to try and change the system. So yeah, following the effective systems, and the support structure. Yeah. And quite frankly, I mean, the franchisors that do it really well, and dial it in. And yeah, that creates that support structure for those franchisees to be successful, and thus then hopefully they're happy at what they're doing. So yeah. And he brings up the last little thing there. It says, hold them to the standards to protect the brand. And this is a good statement because it spreads out to the entire network. So if you have one franchisee or a group of franchisees that are kind of struggling or not happy, that can affect the entire brand, right? So having that double-sided, if you will, edge where you're supporting, but you're also enforcing, right? There is a capacity to that, and it's proven to be effective in the sense that you're maintaining a brand structure. You cannot have rogue or unhappy franchisees affecting the rest of your franchise community. So great statement.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Darren, for that. I really, really appreciate you getting involved, and it's great to have you with us. Let us know your thoughts as this conversation continues. But it is so important. And Jason, you mentioned there about the sign that says follow the system. And not everyone's cut out to be a franchisee. I often talk about our wonderful military veterans that
Yeah.
will make fantastic franchisees, because if you are in one of the forces, you are used to doing the absolute best, but within a very strict set of rules and procedures, and you're used to following a strict chain of command and all of these things, but you're used to being creative within those boundaries. And it takes a unique type of person to become a good franchisee. Entrepreneurs sometimes, like you say, they're too um, they want to do things their own way, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. They're mavericks, right?
Mavericks, thank you.
Yeah. That's why I can't be a franchise. I took all the profile tests in the past when we had them. I was like, oh, no, you can't be a franchisee.
No, I'm like a terrible franchisee as well. But look,
So,
this is it. It's important stuff, and there's lots of people within the franchise industry that would make terrible franchisees, and it's important to recognize it. It really is.
yeah.
Let's have another look at who's here. We've got a little comment here from Neil that says, thanks both, couldn't agree more about the customer reviews. Yeah, it's so important when we're looking to create a happy, successful franchise network. A lot of that work happens at the beginning. This has been said before,
Yeah.
from the research and due diligence from a franchisee to the communication between the franchisee and the franchisor to make sure they're aligned and they can provide what they want and it's within those parameters, because disappointment is going to create unhappiness and frustration. So being open, and all of this stuff at the beginning and them understanding what they're getting into. We can get into the whole topic of regulation versus no regulation, but of course in
Yeah.
America you do have perhaps more information that has to be given beforehand, and therefore if you're armed with more information, quite possibly that will mean that you know what you're getting into a bit more, so therefore you might have a better chance of being satisfied and happy. That is a debate that will continue, I'm sure.
Yeah. In the US, the franchise sales process, if you don't know what you're getting into, it's because you were asleep. I mean, the
Mm.
the way we are held accountable for making sure the franchisee knows what they're getting into is such a high level that you just can't get away from it. You know what you're doing, and that's protecting the brand, right? So we've talked to we've had questions about this in the past.
Yeah, but it's important. We're talking today about being happy and being successful, and it starts at the beginning, and it starts with that whole process, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's really important. Let's have another look. We've got a few people that are here. We've got Omar from Zoom Party. Love Omar. He's put, hello, my friend. Well, it's great to have you with us, Omar. Always good to have you with us. And we've got Rachel Schaffer with us as well, 100%, Darren. So Rachel is agreeing there. We've got a great comment coming up from Penny, from Neil. But look, let's take one here from Tim, see what this one's all about. Tim has put, have you ever used an ENPS system to gauge franchisee satisfaction? The ultimate question, how likely are you to recommend this franchise, is one of your network as an investment. Yeah, interesting. What is an
Mhm.
ENPS system, Jason? I don't
So
know.
that's the electronic version for E, but it's the net promoter score, right? So we've all done the it's got the scale 1 to 10. If you hit a 10, they know that they've done a good job or whatever they're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny you asked that, Tim, where our our CRM at SEO Samba has the electronic net promoter score built into it. Have we ever used it, or any of our clients used it for franchising? I don't know. I don't have that information. I know it works well on the consumer side, obviously. Again, that would be something that you could actually administer at the convention, your annual convention, because you want folks that have been seasoned or, are successful, or because, as you know, the stratosphere of the franchise system, you've got your top 20, your middle 60, and your bottom 20 or 10. It varies in each system. So it depends on who you're asking, when you're asking them, to get that net promoter scores. And the other thing is that you've got to have a fairly decent system, at least 50 more franchises, because, if you have 5 and you ask all 5 and you're at, your convention in the Bahamas, yeah, they're going to say they love it. Right. So there's a bit of structuring behind that. I think it's a good idea for larger brands. But yeah, to answer that question, I don't have any data on that, but that's my assumptions.
I think picking out the question that Tim's picked out of that, how likely are you to recommend this franchise to one of your network as an investment? That's a great question, isn't it? To have out there in the public as a franchisor, getting your existing franchisee network answering it, getting your new franchisees asking it, and getting that as part of the system, because that's a question that should be asked, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the next question is who would you recommend? Because that is the number one converting franchise sales marketing effort, is your franchisees referring somebody into the system. Mm-hmm. When they refer, those convert, and you'll pay whatever you need to pay for that referral to that franchisee to get that referral, because they always convert and they're always good. Because now you have immediate validation, you have all the succession in there for that new franchisee to understand the business because they already have a friend in it. So yeah, that's a keen opportunity there. So absolutely. Yeah, I love that question.
I love that question as well, because if you can get your franchise business to a point where your other franchisees are providing the bulk of your new franchise inquiries, like you say, the conversion rates for that are going to be much, much higher, because they've already been validated through the natural process, because they've been talking to someone they know and they've understood a lot about the business. So I think it's a great question, Tim. Thank you very much for that one. Let's have another look and see what Neil's come back, and he's put, more needs to be done to truly measure the customer experience, not just NPS or qualitative data, but measurable, quantifiable operational data. Good discussion. Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to work out if your franchisees are happy through asking good questions, you've got to ask these in all sorts of different ways at all sorts of different times. We spoke a week or so ago about biases as well, which I found a really fascinating conversation.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
And whatever you're asking can be skewed depending on the bias when you're asking it. So trying to get that representation as true as possible is a real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah. So Jason McWest at Franmetrics has done a phenomenal job at just this. He's built this software that gives you a franchise scorecard, and it involves all sorts of metrics and data, both in person, which you would call thick data, and then you've got relative data that comes from numbers and sales and things like that. But man, his system's awesome for building out that operational data. I think you can derive sentiment from it too, which is along the lines of happiness. So if you haven't had Jason on the show, you should have Jason.
I'll be reaching out. I've written his name down. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Franmetrics. Yes.
It's because it's another Jason, isn't it? You're looking after the Jasons.
Yeah, we do. Jasons take care of our our group.
You've got to, you've got you've got to do it. All right, let's have
But
a little.
Neil, you are correct in that, measuring as many data points as you can to incorporate them into decision making as a franchisor and supporting your franchisees, 100% correct. And if you're not doing it and you're not sequestering that data as a franchisor, you should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at what we got here. This is a new person, Raisa. Great to have you with us, first of all. Welcome to the Franchise Show. And they put, hey, Harvey, thank you for the great session. Just a question. Given that the majority of franchise in the MENAT are made up of US-made brands, could you share some light on franchisee personas and what worked? What challenges or insights to finding the right franchisees?
Do you know what minute is?
No,
Is that like the European version of?
I would say so. We're gonna have to Google it, or
Yeah. So great question.
learning.
I mean, we'll get to the thick of it. Like, what personas work well traditionally in franchising. So that's a huge answer, but in a nutshell, depending on your offering, right, you're looking for folks that are in a transitional state for whatever reason, right? So they just graduated college and their parents are looking to get them into businesses because they're entrepreneurs. You've got your transitional executive that's 55 or a little bit older, has a nice 401k, and he wants to take control of his career. You've got serial entrepreneurs, right? The folks that may already own franchises or other businesses that want to grow. And then you have, folks that are what I call the 1 o'clock in the morning folks, because you find you get franchise inquiries in the middle of the night because they're so frustrated Friday night that they're frustrated at their own position in their job that they're looking for a franchise opportunity that night, right? So those aren't the greatest candidates, but there are a lot of them. But yeah, people in transition is typically what you're hunting for. And then validating their work experience or their drive, and then of course their funding. That's usually a good filter. So yeah, those have been, in my experience, the typical ones. But depending on what your offering is as a franchisor, you're trying to align that with a certain demographic. So a weird one, Harvey, is that CPA or tax preparers also own mosquito prevention franchises because during the summer they're not doing anything.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it's just one of those weird fits, right? That works. Absolutely. So, anyways.
Look, well, here's the learning for us. It's all the abbreviations.
Oh, thank you.
Today.
Thank you, Tim.
Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. And also that came back with Raisa as well to say Middle East. Well, look, every day is a learning. And I love that about this show. As I say, this is why I'm here. I'm here to learn and to talk with everybody and to learn together. So I love it. Great question as well, Raisa. Thank you very much for that. Let's have a look at this one here from Darren. Surveys can be a great tool, but if you wait until once a year to find out, it may be too late. There needs to be a more regular check of the pulse, regular connections, face-to-face, phone check-ins, etc. What do you make of this one?
Darren's correct. I mean, that heartbeat and that pulse he's outlining there is critical. It gets harder and more challenging as your franchise grows. The common perception of franchising is that there's this huge corporate office with 100 people in it running the franchise, even if there's 5 or 10 franchise locations. And if you've been in the franchising industry, that's not true. It's more of like 3 or 4 people until they get to like 25, and then they add an operations or marketing or whoever, and they grow They grow in sync with their franchises. But when you get to 100 plus franchise locations and the franchisor can afford a deeper staff, it's necessary just for that one reason, is to make sure that, you know, you're having a regular connection with your franchisees. You're delegating those regions into somebody's ownership to make sure that they're doing well. But it is harder on the smaller ones as they're growing to keep those relationships. And it's probably the most critical time when you're building a franchise, to have good franchisees being serviced as much as they can and that pulse being held together. And that's another reason for intranets in these Facebook groups that franchisees use, is because they can share information amongst themselves and propel themselves, and the franchisor can contribute and identify trends and things that are happening that they can then effectively focus on as a group. And then some franchisors have their own franchisee board, if you will, to help the franchisor make decisions on software and marketing and whatever other applications that they want to bring into for improvements. They need that feedback. And those boards are very influential because they're usually the top 20% of their the franchises in that system. And all the other franchisees are looking to them for guidance and know-how and experience. So those boards are very important too, to keep that pulse. So when you look at a smaller franchise, let's say 20 units, you've got your franchise team that's reaching out as much as they can within reason. You've got your intranets that are broadcasting the challenges, if you will, or the celebrations. And then you have your annual conventions. And then if you incorporate, systems like Franmetrics, you can actually then get more of the data back in, because usually your CFO or whoever's training or importing the royalties usually has a good thumb on what that franchisee is doing as far as the numbers speaking. But it isn't until they talk to, an operations person that they can put two and two together and service that franchise or franchisee if they need it. So yeah, absolutely. That pulse is critical.
Yeah, I like that. Check the pulse. And because I think as a franchisor, when you think of that, you can visualize easily that it's something that's regular, something that you need to do often. So I think that's a great expression. Love that. I'm going to bring up a comment here by Leslie. Leslie's put, trust the process. Important in any industry, I think. And yeah, I mean, we've said this, you said that you had that written on there, follow the system. It's similar, isn't it? You've got to trust it. You bought into a franchise network. You've paid for a process, so you've got to trust it. You've got to work within it to the best of your ability.
I would totally agree with that. As a franchisee candidate, and this comes back to my nature, I've worked with a ton of brands, and evaluating the team is also important for you during training, and then also, even in the discovery day. How smart are these folks? How well can they support me? What is their background? Do they march to the beat that they're selling, right? Those are things that you need to challenge a franchisor at when you first start that relationship, because they're going to be carrying you for a long time. And you like anything, you want to follow somebody that has the experience. So, and then Leslie also brought up, do you gentlemen think that happiness is a choice? I don't think we have enough time for that one. I don't disagree with the statement, but it's so big, right? Yeah, well, that goes back to your value structure and what motivates you and all that stuff. Yeah. It's like we could do like 2 or 3 shows on that, Leslie.
It's a great question. And actually, Leslie is going to be a guest on this show in the future.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask her the same question then.
And she can help answer it. So she's a real expert on mindset and does a live show actually about the book Think and Grow Rich. Really interesting. I encourage everybody to tune in on a Friday. Really good. But great question. Really good question. As I say, it's a deep one. And we've got about 45 seconds left of this segment. Right. But I love it. Thank you so much for putting the question in there. Well, look, we have now got to a new section of the show. And it's a section of the show where I have to disappear for a moment and I know this is troubling for you all that you can't see my beautiful face for a moment, although you can hear me. You can hear me, and that is because this part of the show, I switch hands.
Oh,
Look at
wow, we
that.
got fancy. You got
Okay.
fancy.
Thank you.
I love
And,
it.
and this part of the show is brought to you by PJ Murphy, Bespoke
Oh,
British Hatters.
what
Okay,
kind? What's the name of that hat, Harvey?
it's a fedora.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, it's a good hat. I'm a
um,
hat guy. I should have wore a
yeah.
hat today. I don't
Well,
know.
Paul Murphy is not only a hat guy and made this beautiful hat, but he's also a franchisor, works for a franchisor, works for a trampoline franchise called Flip Out. So reach out if you want a hat, and reach out if you want to jump about on a trampoline and make that a franchise as well. So I hope you're with us, Paul. And if you are, this part of the show is where we get under the hat of the guest.
Oh, yes.
And we stop talking about franchising for a little bit, and we find out a little bit about Jason Caber, the chap. So, Jason, tell us either something that you wouldn't normally be associated with, or people don't know about you, or if you've met anyone famous. You can choose either of those.
Well, I've met famous people. I'm never impressed, but yeah, I think the one thing that's not on my profiles or anybody knows about is my love for snowmobiling. So I live in Denver. I've been a snowmobile for 20 years, and I love the sport. I'm the ride chairman of our local Mile High Snowmobile Club, and I ride a lot during the winter. It's a great sport. It's called backcountry snowmobiling. So you get out onto these beautiful vistas and mountain ranges, and you can see from hundreds of miles, if you will. You get to tour, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, to all the great places to enjoy the snow that's there. And then the community that represents the snowmobiling community is very caring and very honest, and I like to be part of that. So yeah, that's something that not a lot of people know about.
Fantastic. I did go on a snowmobile once about 25 years ago, and I nearly came off. Although I did do jet skiing. So it's kind of like cold jet skiing, isn't it? Snowmobiling.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. And there's another bit that happens here.
Yeah.
I've been asking you questions, and you've answered them beautifully all afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you are. And you get a chance now to ask me a question if you like. You don't have to, but
Yeah.
you can do.
So a lot of folks don't know that that Harvey studied as a professional chef.
A long time.
And it was just it was like 2 years ago. So my question to you, Harvey, is what is your favorite dish to prepare for your friends for entertaining?
Okay. I love it. I love the question. And you did, I admit, tell me that you would ask me this question at the beginning, and I forgot. So I'm thinking about it now. But you know what? I think it would be a stew. It would be a stew cooked on, we have a little log burner here.
Okay.
And we can kind of use it a bit like a slow cooker. And
Yes.
you don't need to do much to it. Use great products, great flavors in there, and it kind of cooks away all day, and you can smell it, and it's in the room where all your friends are, and it's warming and it's comforting. So I would say something simple like a stew with some nice veg. That's what I would cook. So that would be my dinner with friends. I think it gives you time to spend with your friends as well when you cook something that is not fiddly.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, because now it's lunchtime here, so
You're hungry.
You've increased my appetite. So thank you.
Well, that's it.
I love stew.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's evening time here as well. So
you're gonna put that recipe in the show feed,
I could
right?
do, couldn't I? Look, it's a good idea.
Good. Yeah.
Link to the recipe for the tuck stew.
Yeah. Everybody loves a good recipe.
Oh, well, that's it. See, ideas, all of these ideas are born of the moment. So I love
Oh,
them.
look, we got a fan. We got a super fan, Rachel.
Well,
You guys are
super
amazing.
fan
Thank
right
you,
back
Rachel.
at you, Rachel. So
Yes, yes.
great to have you with us. Okay, well, look, we have come to the end of today's session. I would like to thank everybody who's been with us live today. You really do make this show what it is. I love having these conversations together. I always learn a whole bunch of things. It's fantastic to have these conversations with our community. So a big thank you goes to all of you. And a massive thank you goes to Jason and SEO Samba for your time today, for your support and your friendship, and helping me learn all about franchising. So it's fantastic.
100%. Thank you, Harvey.
You're very welcome. So next week on the franchise show, we are talking franchise exit strategies and resales. So that's going to be a great conversation. We've got Andrew Marcoux of Businesses for Sale, one of our lovely supporters, coming on to talk about that. It's going to be a great conversation. So please join us Tuesday, the 11th of March, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST for that. Look forward to having that conversation with you all. So until next time, my lovely friends, take very good care.